tuned into Breaking the Mask of Depression with your host, Diva with Depression.
Hey guys, welcome to Breaking the Mask of Depression with me, your host, the Diva with Depression. How you guys doing today? How are you really doing today? That's what I figured. We're all a hot mess. A hot mess. The world is falling apart. Shit is crazy, crazy, crazy. The holidays are coming. The kids are going to want everything, and the world is falling apart. Cocaine is still illegal. So what is we going to do? We're just going to have to make it do what it do and try to calm down. So, of course, I have another guest today. I told you guys that I was going to try to have more guests on until the end of the year. And today's guest, he's not only, I added my new name for everybody as a potty. That's the podcast buddy. So today's potty he's not only one of my favorite people, but he's also an inspiration. And he's also, I can't even put into words. He's the epitome of doing the work in our community. He is the man behind Afros Audio. So welcome, Talib Jasir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So let's just get it out. Tell us what Afros Audio is.
Afros Audio is a podcast festival. Started in 2019 in Brooklyn, New York. And now we're in our 7th year, and this will be our 3rd year in Baltimore. And Afros Audio Podcast Festival is basically a conference, and it's the first conference formed by Black indie podcast creators and audio professionals, and also aspiring and new podcasters. And the goal is to not only increase the voices of Black creatives in the global marketplace, but also to create space for podcasters and audio professionals to get together, have conversations, create partnerships, because that helps the sustainability of our work in the market. And so that's the work. It's a lot more than that, but that's it in a nutshell.
And you've this was the first year that I was able to attend, and like I said, and I've continued to say, I did an interview with Dr. Bob, right? Last week, and he said to let you and Corey know that he talked about it through the whole time, and we did 2 takes, and he's still talking about it, about how amazing it was, right, to be in a place, not only a place that is representing our culture, but to be in a place that's full of our people, and we were able to get, just us, be ourselves, and so I congratulate you on what you do, because I just simply think that it's, of course there's hiccups and everything, but even with hiccups, you see that everybody was willing to do whatever you wanted to do, like fill in the blanks or whatever. So it was just wonderful being there. But my next thing is, you and I have never shared anything really. I mean, you know that I have a mental health podcast, and the first time I met you was when we did the Black History, interviews that you did. And so when the getting to know you event for Afros Audio is when you started sharing stories about your life and your new podcast. And so, okay, shameless plug. Just tell us what the new name is.
It's called Grumpy Wisdom Podcast.
So how did you come up with that? Because I'm grumpy and I love anything grumpy.
Well, it's one of those things as I continue to get older, and that's the thing, you get older, not younger. As I continue to get older, it's just one of those things where I recognize that I have a lot of experience in things, and a lot of critical thought and consciousness around different experiences that people have in our lives. And I'm a creative and an entrepreneur first. And so wanting to support others through my stories, my wisdom, even my grump. And the grump is really about let's get out the way already. Let's get started on the things that we want to do. and move it forward and start to have a different self-image about how we see ourselves. Just really want to share those messages and those experiences that I've had over the years to others in hopes that it will move them forward as well.
Yeah. I know how hard it is, how difficult it is. I was just telling somebody, as much as I share on my platform that's not even half of it. If I told the other half, I don't even know where I'll be. I don't even know where people will be after reading it. So I know how difficult it is to sort of strip away yourself, because people, of course, there are those that are going to be inspired. There's one person it's going to help, but there's also other people that could use it against you. So I commend you for that. Now, did you mention that you have siblings?
I do. I have sisters.
Okay. So what are their experiences similar to your experiences?
What's interesting is I only was raised in the house with one sister, and that's my twin sister. Okay. And we compared notes probably about 4 years ago. And it's interesting. We're twins. We lived in the same house. We experienced the same things. And her filter and perception is much different than mine. And so it was like the first time we were like, really? You think that? You believe that? You remember it that way? So it's interesting, but that's the nature of people. We all have our own filters and perspectives and experiences, even if we're experiencing it. This is the same exact thing at the same exact time.
Yeah. My brothers and I'm the only girl, and I'm in the middle. And we often do that. And I interviewed them last year on the show. And it's really, like you said, it's really funny that we all had different experiences, especially my baby brother, because we're 18 months apart. And he's a brat and I'm not. So, it's like, okay, well, I don't think it happened that way. So what was the catalyst? It happened that way for him. I mean, we had it hard, we had it rough, but the one thing that they did agree on, that we all agreed on, is I had it the worst. So, there's that. But anyway, it's not about me. What was the catalyst for deciding to start sharing?
Well, I've always been a sharer. I believe that communication is everything. And getting people to understand certain aspects of you. Of course, there's self-ownership, which you talked about earlier. And so can't give everything away, right? Right. Not even to the closest people to you. But I'm very transparent and vulnerable in a lot of ways. And I just feel like it's important for us to be able to communicate the things that are on our hearts, on our minds, because that's the quickest way for people to understand, your why, where you're coming from, your thoughts, because I'm me, right? And you're you, and we're going to have different perspectives. We're going to draw different conclusions. And so if I'm able to share what mine are, then hopefully you don't get me effed up when it's time for us to, you to share information about me to others, or even understand me when we're having conversations. And so for me, being transparent and vulnerable is a superpower. I don't see it as anything other than that. Very empowering to be able to speak your truth, stand on it. And I also think it filters out the people who don't rock with you. You get to move over there. If I don't rock with, if it doesn't align with who you would like me to be, or how you consider me. That's an opportunity, right? And so I'd rather people make decisions about how to be in relationship with me based off of knowing my truth versus pretending and them getting to know me on some falsehood.
Well, I know your wife, your lovely wife. She's so nice. How long have you been married?
I have been married for 14 years.
Okay. So this is something that she knows everything about.
Yeah, we've been together for 19, going on 20.
Okay. What about your children?
Yeah, I'm very transparent with my children. I think it's important that we do that
Yeah. Hmm.
because I want them to recognize that you don't just arrive, you know, with all your shit together. There's
Right.
a journey that we go through. And despite the trials and the things that by our choosing or not that we find ourselves in our life, I truly believe there's a Maya Angelou book called Wouldn't Trade Nothing for My Journey Now. I think it's unfair question to say, well, what do you think life would be like if you didn't experience this?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, how can I know that? I experienced it, right?
Right.
And so wouldn't trade nothing for my journey now, for me, as I interpret it, simply means that it all shaped me, right? What didn't break me shaped me.
Right.
And it shaped my idea of the world, my idea of self, good, bad, or indifferent. And it's up to us at a certain point. I think that once the abusers stop, we have a tendency of picking up where they left off
Right.
and begin to abuse ourselves, whatever that looks like, through vices, through relationships, or isolation, or whatever it looks like. And so I'm just determined not to do that, and to share that story, and to take the time to clean off my wings so that my children can fly. I think that's important.
I love that. I love that. I love that. That's a t-shirt right there. I love it. I am the same way. My mom used to always say, "Oh, you're too you and the girls, you're too close, too close. There's no such thing as too close." Because I'm going to tell them everything the same way you said, because, once I realized that both of my girls live with a mental illness, I am going to share. I mean, yes, they live in the house, they lived in the house with me, so they saw what I was going through, but I'm going to make sure that they knew what was going to happen to them at every stage. The three of us were on FaceTime last night crying, the three of us crying at the same time, having a conversation. So there's no such thing as too close. And that's another thing that I am always screaming from the rooftops: listen to your children, talk to your children, because, we come from, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 56. And so we come from a generation of what goes on in this house stays in this house. Shut up. What do you have to be depressed about, or whatever the case may be? So I am a big advocate for talk to your children and tell them everything. And so you just mentioned the next two questions that I'm going to ask, and it'll be the last two questions because I know you're busy. The first one is, what type of mental illnesses came out of the struggles that you were having throughout your life?
Well, there are some things that are yet to be diagnosed. But I have been diagnosed with severe anxiety and severe depression, ADHD, all of those things. So those things came out of it, and it took a while for me. I think as a man, I decided probably as a teenager, and this isn't gender specific, really. I'm just saying specifically for myself, just move on. Just, it's over. We don't have to deal with it. Well, not dealing with it will keep hitting you in the back of your head until you're willing to deal with it. And so there was a time where I recognized that a lot of the things that we do and say about what we're going through is very surface level. So for me, depression is depression. It's a diagnosis. But, in the American psychology, book, what else is there, right? As a personal human that's experiencing something, and why, right? And so there was a time where I had to realize that I was suffering from PTSD, from the trauma of my childhood, and I was acting accordingly. But all I knew was that I go from 0 to 100 real quick. All I knew was that I had a bad temper. All I knew was that there was a hole in every wall that I'd ever lived in. That's all I knew, but I didn't really understand why until one day I had that meeting with myself, like, what's going on? Like what's happening? Why is this always the output? Why is this always the outcome of your rage or your anger or your upset? And then I said to him, then we had that meeting and I said, oh yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
This is what happened. And this is the direct correlation with that. And once for me, and this is just true for me, I'm not sure about everyone, even though I've worked with several clients. I'm a life coach as well. And this is something that I teach, is that once you can take ownership of something, you can take agency over it. Right. And if I'm unaware of a reason that I'm acting or being, then I haven't owned it yet in order to take agency over it. And so my goal in all things is forward movement. So I just want to know what's going on so I can work on it and work with it, transmute it. I believe that all of us have the capacity to transmute and be an alchemist in our own lives. And I just refuse to let anyone outside of me to walk around with my power.
I like that. Now, I didn't know the life coach part.
Yeah, I've been a life coach since 2015.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what does that involve?
Well, I work with creatives and entrepreneurs and also folks that know about my work and want to work with me, whether they're creative or entrepreneur or not. But again, it's really about that forward movement. How do we work to understand ourselves better? Because this world and the social constructs and the socialization has disconnected us from our innate ways of being and our capacity to simply be great at whoever we are and whatever we have inside of us. And so a lot of us are just simply disconnected from that. And because of it, we stay stuck, or we don't know what to do next, or we live a life that is not, we can become the trajectory of who we aren't, not who we are. Easy, we can live and die that way and never truly become. And so that's the work. The work is to really encourage people to understand who they are by understanding who they are specifically, and then being very intentional about doing the work that will allow them to live a life that they want. We live in an experience where we live everybody else's life around us or live according to expectations. And I truly believe that they say life is short, but it's the longest thing that you or I are going to actually experience. And so I'd rather be in pursuit of what it is that I want to experience rather than anything that I was told to experience.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Last question. I always say that two of my vices throughout this journey was cigarettes and Entenmann's donuts. So tell me one of your worst vices that you've had during your journey.
Let's see. I don't know, because I'm as of today, 8 days, no drinking, and I'm a beer connoisseur. So I love beer of all. I enjoy craft beer specifically, and I do believe that if it's less than 7%, it's a waste of my damn time. So those are things that I just get really mindful around when I'm dealing with stuff. I want to make sure that there is no dependencies, because I don't have time for that, one. But two, again, I don't want this world to dictate my life or how I get to exist. And so it gets to be up to me. And so if I want to turn something on or turn it off, I want that agency to be able to do that. And so I'm a drinker is what I'm basically saying. I love beer. I love whiskey. And but I wouldn't call it so much as a vice, because I've been really intentional about checking that every once in a while when I feel like I need to. So earlier in the year, I did 90 days without alcohol.
Awesome.
So it's one of those things where that could be a vice. Oh, I have a great vice for you. I'm a video game fanatic.
Oh,
and
really?
yeah. And because it really isn't a substance. Like I said, I'm able to keep myself in check with that, but I can escape. I can escape from my genius, my brilliance, my fears, my doubts, all of
And you can
that
make
in
money
a
from
video
that
game.
too.
Yeah, but I've never pursued that, so it's not actually something that I can say is positive.
My baby
So,
cousin is like one of the big gamers. And when he started, I was like, you make money from that? And he does very well with it. I'm
oh
like,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's never been my pursuit though. So it's just about escaping, actually using it as a vice, and it's something that I have to be very intentional about, scheduling, routine, all that sort of thing. Because if I don't, then I've spent many, many, many years escaping in video games and not moving forward because of it. So, and once I again understood that's what I was doing, and it took me over a decade to do that, to really understand that, maybe 2 decades. Now it's within my agency to
Right.
manage it. So those are the things really. It can get out of hand if you let it, if you don't have self-awareness around it. And that's part of the work that we must do as people, is to get self-awareness, because that's how we move forward. That's how we get out of things that we no longer want to experience. And I'll land it with this. I truly believe in one of my philosophies, and my coaching philosophies, is that if we don't have beliefs that serve or support us, then they won't challenge us either. So if I'm, depressed or upset or, whatever it is, then I'm going to act accordingly at all times. I'm never going to challenge myself to say, okay, I can do this a bit different, and what does that look like? And how can I be intentional about doing it differently? And again, and not again, but understanding that mental illness is mental illness. It's its own thing. But where inside of that can I have agency? Because in a lot of ways that's has a mind of its own, and can be a driverless vehicle. But but where can I find pockets where I can take the agency over my own experience and do something different?
Wow. Thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate you doing this. I know that you're very busy running here and there. So tell us about Grumpy Wisdom, your life coach business, if you want to put that out there, and Afros and Audio about next year, what you're doing.
Sure. So 2025 is coming up fast and furious. Like, wow, we're almost there. And
Yes.
so we're definitely getting ready, locked and loaded for the 7th year of Afros Audio Podcast Festival back in Baltimore, October 17th through the 19th. I'm really looking forward to that, and different collaborations, micro events that we'll be doing, event collaborations. Last year we did one with Black Writers Weekend. This year we'll do another with Black Writers Weekend, but also Banji Boombox and some other events that we're really looking forward to collaborating with. I just published my 4th book, Take What's Yours, Becoming a Liberated Creator. And that is about, basically, I'm finally putting out one of my life coach frameworks that I use with my clients. And that's about being intentional, the 5 intentional principles for me. And so I'm doing the work there. Continue to coach clients and that sort of thing. And Grumpy Wisdom podcast. I'm finally putting that out. That's been a long time coming. I've had that idea since 2021, and it's finally getting there. We'll have some end of season podcast episodes come out, and then for a soft launch, and then the full launch will be 2025. So I'm looking forward to that, and kind of joining forces of all of my talents and abilities and things that I'm putting out in the world and bringing them together.
Well, that's awesome. You have to send me the list of your books so I can
Sure.
put them on my website.
Absolutely.
So, thank you again for coming on. The last thing, tell a Black man, leave your brother something. Give a nugget.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, I would say, do your work, whatever that looks like for you. And that simply means that there are spaces where, again, we can understand who we are, on a fundamental level to begin to love ourselves. I believe that love is not judgment. And I believe that just as much for the people on the outside of us as much as for ourselves. And so if I'm consistently judging myself for what I don't like when I'm in my lower self, that's a distraction for me. It's a distraction when we are thinking about the way in which we react or feel versus focusing up on how we can begin to transmute those feelings, of those beliefs, those experiences, in order for us to have the life that we want. Again, life is not short. It's the longest experience we're going to have. But it's also not something that we can know when it's over, right? And so it's about urgency. Like, we get to be urgent about living the life that we want to experience now, not later. Later is bogus as hell. Tomorrow is bogus. We don't know what's happening tomorrow. All we know is what's happening right now in this moment. And to be present to that and take agency over yourself.
Thank you so much, Talib. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Folks, thank you for listening in. I will have all of Talib's information on my website, divawithdepression.com. Of course, all the episodes are on divawithdepression.com. I hope you guys find some peace in the madness, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.